I really like to say that creating a Revit model is like replicating the construction of a building. So it's pretty much the same thing, and you just do it in a digital environment.
The Archgyan Podcast. India's first and very own architecture podcast, where you'll hear the insights, experiences, and journeys from India's leading architects. No matter what your skill level is, together we'll build on our knowledge and share architecture's greatest stories ever told. Now, here's your host, Manish Paul Simon.
On podcast. Today we have with us a very special guest all the way from Bulgaria. He is an architect, a BIM expert, and also a lecturer. This is Petar Penchev. Let me give you guys a brief on Petar to give you some context. So he completed his architecture and construction course from Engel Popov Vocational High School of Building Architecture and Geodesy in Bulgaria. After which he pursued a Master of Architecture from University of Architecture, Civil Engineering and Geodesy in Sofia, which is the capital city of Bulgaria. He's worked as a CAD draftsman, interior designer, lecturer, architect, project manager, and now as a BIM expert. He's also a partner of All One Studio and also works as a part-time lecturer in the same university that he studied in. Apart from architecture, he likes hiking and also being in the wild. In this episode, Petar takes us on his journey in architecture, his experience in architecture school, his introduction to Revit, the world of BIM, his take on where the AEC industry is headed, what he's learned from being a lecturer, advice for young architects, and you'll also get a sneak peek into what exactly goes into a BIM project. There's a lot of golden information in this episode, so I hope you guys like it. And if you do like it, please leave us a review and rating on iTunes. And for the podcast show notes, you can head to our website, which is archgyan.com/33. Also follow us on Instagram. There's a lot of useful content there, and I also go live once in a while to interact with you guys. And do support us on Patreon as well. There's 2 free courses on Patreon, which you guys can access by supporting us on Patreon. You can head to patreon.com/archgyan. With that said, this is BIM in Bulgaria with Petar Penchev. He starts off by sharing his journey in architecture and how he got started. Let's go.
So, where to start from? Okay, it was maybe when I was 13 years old or something, and I went to a high school with profile in architecture, so I started back in the high school, and then the natural continuation of this was to go to the university and study also architecture, and yeah, pretty much this is it. So all the time I was really into things that how to say creativity, and when you want to create something. So this was the profession that I found really interesting, that you could create an environment, you could somehow make people feel in a specific way only by forming their environment, the buildings, the cities. So it was really interesting for me, and feels really inspiring to think about that with some simple things that you do, for example, to make the interior of a room, not even the bigger scale. Only creating something small, you can make somebody feel something. So it's about the emotion and all that stuff. So it's really how to say, I don't know really, but it's really interesting, and it has a lot of aspects. So when you graduate in architecture, you could do really different things. So it's not boring, definitely. So it's really interesting, and yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. The college which you studied in has a rather long name. It's Angel Popov Vocational High School of building architecture and geodesy in Bulgaria. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. This was my high school.
Okay.
It was located in the near city. So I'm from one city, and at the age of 13, I wanted to start study architecture. I need to move to the next city to do that, because the school was there and it was better than the school in my hometown. So I moved, and then after high school, the continuation of the education was to go to the university, and maybe no, it's not the only university in Bulgaria, but the nature of choice was to go to the capital of Bulgaria, which is Sofia, and the university there to study architecture. Yeah.
All right. And that was a 5-year course which you studied?
So it was 5 years in the high school, and then another 5 in in fact 5.5 in the university.
Oh wow, that's pretty long, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a master degree, so it's not a bachelor, it's master. Yeah.
All right. And could you tell us maybe a brief about MArch in Bulgaria, how it's like, and what is the subjects that you studied, whether it was too technical or maybe more creative?
It's kind of mixed, because in some places I know colleagues of mine that study abroad. In some places they do more creative things, like sketching and doing models from clay or some other materials, and don't do much of drawings and technical stuff. On the other side are some universities that they need to do a lot of technical things, how to make drawings, and they're focused on that. Here in Bulgaria, we kind of mix the two worlds. So
nice.
We had some subjects that were involving drawings and technical work, but on the other hand, we had some subjects that needed us to do some models from cardboard or other materials. Some of our lecturers pushed us to do some really crazy models from garbage, from whatever you can find in your home. So
nice.
It was from both worlds pretty much. So it's not fully technical, it's not fully creative. We had some also pretty much from the both worlds, yeah.
All right.
Let's say that. Mm-hmm.
And it was during your time in college that you start picking up on Revit?
In fact, my roommate at that time said to me that there is such a software. It was when I was third year in the university, and he said, there is a course in the university. Do you want to take the course? And I said, okay, let's try. Let's see what is it. So at that time, I basically used only CAD software, and I didn't know anything about Revit or BIM or whatever in this field. So it was very interesting, but I faced a serious problem there, because during our education in the university, exactly the third year was very hard because we had a lot of projects. So the things are that you don't have one project and do different kind of things based on this project. For example, I don't know, some construction study, or I don't know, but the idea is that you have different projects based on the different subjects. And it was really hard to manage all those projects at the same time. And with Revit and something new, I needed to produce at the end the technical stuff. So I needed to do the drawings and all that stuff that with a new software was really hard for me.
Yeah.
And the problem there was that I stopped using Revit. So I go through the course and there. So for the first semester, I only take the course and then stop using Revit, continue with AutoCAD because it was easier for me, because it was very hard for me to make my drawings and everything that I needed to do. It was far more easy for me to do it in AutoCAD because I wasn't that into Revit. I didn't know how to do the little things, the little adjustments, the settings, and everything, and the graphic, the graphic part of the game. So
you didn't have anyone to guide you, maybe a Revit professional in your college?
No, that at that time there was only external course that we took, and there was nobody to help you. And the funny thing is that there wasn't so much materials online.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now you can find pretty much everything on YouTube, or there are tons of information out there right now. But back then it was, I can say, harder to find information, and the main reason, as I mentioned, was that I didn't have time to do it. So I was really overwhelmed with the projects in the university. There were a lot of projects, and I just stopped using it. And from my point of view now, I can say that was a mistake. But the next semester, I said, okay, I take the course. Why I'm not using Revit? So whenever happens at the end, now for the projects this semester, I'll use Revit. And I make everything to learn it, to start using it. And from now on, I use mainly Revit, and pretty much 99% only Revit. So the other software that I use, for example, AutoCAD, are only to link something, or to export something, or to receive or send information for other colleagues or people. So, yeah.
All right. So that gave you a good foundation to maybe land you a better job when you graduated, learning Revit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So this was one of the main reasons that I started working where I'm working now. All these Revit skills and BIM.
Nice.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about the first few firms that you worked for, how you transitioned from just being in the software into what is now called BIM, right? Which is much more than just the software.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me in the beginning to start understanding this new technology, how it works. Pretty much whatever I do, I wanted to know how it's working and why, not just using it because it's modern or because somebody told me that is good. So I start researching and finding new ways of doing BIM workflows. So in the time, it was really important for me to do the things the right way. That's why I started researching the best practices, start to dig for information, and try to connect people with more experience and learn from them to become better and better in what I'm doing right now.
All right. BIM is not compulsory right now in Bulgaria, right?
No, it's not. Yeah, definitely it's not. There are some handbooks and some guidelines which are valid for the entire European Union because Bulgaria is part of the European Union. But there is nothing more here. The process is start developing right now, pretty much.
All right. But the firm which you're a partner in, which is All One Studio, you guys do implement BIM in all your projects, right?
Yeah, exclusively we are using BIM, and the software we use is Revit. So we mainly use this kind of workflow. So this is something like a core value, if I can use that term, for us to use this kind of technology because we see all the benefits of it. So we believe that this is future, and it's really important for us to do it that way.
All right. And I read in one of your LinkedIn articles that not many of the consultants know about BIM or Revit. So how do you manage maybe the interoperability or the coordination with other consultants?
Yeah, the recent years, the situation is brighter, I can say.
Okay.
Previously, it was really hard to find, for example, MP engineers or structural engineers to work and to form a team with fully BIM team. But the recent years is become easier. In fact, in Bulgaria, it's a little bit tricky, especially for the electrical engineers, because we have some regulations that say that you need to pass your project or to do your project in a certain way, and Revit is not very into that way. So Revit is created for another standards. It's more for the US way of doing the electrical projects, for example. And the guys here are struggling to make Revit work the way they want it to be, and it's really hard. This maybe is the one of the disciplines that's really hard to find engineers to work with. On the other hand, for example, the HVAC engineers are very into Revit because makes their work really easier, and it's much easier for them. Maybe the same is valid for the plumbing engineers. So there are more and more people now who start understanding the benefits of BIM, of Revit, and start using it. And I see that in the future the things will become better and better.
Nice. So your work also now includes clash detection and checking if the MEP fixtures are clashing and all that.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see that, for example, our HVAC engineer is doing its own clash detections, and even before he sends his model to us, he already runs a clash detection between HVAC and structure. And when I receive the model, usually it's almost perfect. So it's really nice to see that other colleagues are doing that kind of things, and the coordination is much easier right now. I say a lot that if I need to do a full coordination of a project which is CAD based, I definitely cannot do that because it's impossible. So for example, I receive a plumbing project in CAD, and our colleague is just write down a number which should relate to the elevation of some pipe. I cannot go through each and every pipe, see the slopes, see the numbers, and check everything. It's impossible. And when I have everything modeled in 3D, I just run a clash detection, and it says, is it clashing or not? So it's much easier, and it saves time. And as I said, I could not do it the right way if it's not in BIM. So yeah,
absolutely. And how have you started using maybe automation like Dynamo, or maybe if you're also into PyRevit, right? So how have you used these systems to be more efficient and generate more drawings?
Yeah. So at the start, it was only Revit. So as I said, I like to, when I start doing something, to dig to the end. So to find how it's working, to follow the best practice and everything. So after you reach a certain level with Revit, you see that it's not perfect. Like every software, there is a lot of room for upgrading, to optimize your processes, to create better workflows. So I start looking for another answers, and there was Dynamo. And I first started using Dynamo to automate some of our processes, and maybe even in the beginning it was just because I saw some nice videos showing crazy forms and stuff like that, and I said, this is cool, I should start using it. And after that, I saw the benefits for automation our daily tasks. So in the beginning, it was just because it's cool and you can make crazy designs and some strange forms. But then I saw the pragmatic side of it. So you could, for example, automate some dimensioning or automate tagging. Here in Bulgaria, we need to say for each door either if it's left or right. And Revit knows that if it's left or right, but it cannot report it directly through a schedule or something. So it knows the orientation of the door, but there is no parameter that says, it's left or right. So Dynamo was a really nice way to extract this information for Revit and populate it in a custom parameter after that. So it was really easy for us to make our schedules, because otherwise you can imagine that, for example, 7 or 8 story building, and you need to go through each and every pretty much door and say, if it's left or right, and do it manually by looking at the door. And all this information is already there. It's in the model, but you need a better way, or in this case, the only way to extract this information through the Revit API. And Dynamo was the tool that helps us to do that. But in the process, we face another issue. So, I'm the guy who is digging in this kind of material and know how to use Dynamo. But for example, my colleague on the over there wants to use the same workflow that I've developed. He doesn't need to know how to create the whole workflow. He just wanted to use this workflow and to name the doors or whatever the workflow is doing. So, I said I will send you the Dynamo script. I send him the Dynamo script, or even upload it on our local server. And when he opens it, it turns out that he's missing some packages. The version of Dynamo is different and stuff like that. So that was really annoying, because I needed to go there and spend half an hour downloading packages and resolving all the issues.
But that's what BIM managers do, right?
Yeah, but I said, it should be a better way of doing that. And I start looking at that time for new kinds of ways of doing the same thing. And also another downside of Dynamo is that the execution of the workflows and the scripts is not that fast. So if you're doing some complicated task, it takes a lot of time. And the answer was Python at that time. So nice. I started using Python to make custom Dynamo nodes. And that's how I didn't need additional packages. I just write whatever I need in Python. And at that time, I started learning Python, because I'm complete newbie. I didn't know any programming language or anything about programming and how it really works. And it was really hard in the beginning, because again, there wasn't enough information at that time. Now I can say that there are a really nice source of information exactly for Dynamo and Python, and how to combine those two to do whatever you want. And this, for some time, resolves our problems. So Dynamo with Python was okay, but again we faced some problems and issues, and we needed to find a better way of doing this. And then I saw PyRevit, which is an awesome platform. It's completely free and open, and there are a lot of resources explaining how it works. And what it gives you is that you can write some script in Python, and then put it in a specific folder, and when reloaded, you can see it in your custom Revit tab. And it's there. You can assign a shortcut for it, and it's really easy. It's really, really easy to use. And that was our answer, and that's how we're working right now. So you don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to know C# or some other programming language to compile add-in or something that you need to install on each computer or whatever. You just need to install PyRevit, and then create a custom folder on your local server in the office, and then populate all the scripts written in Python there. And with a couple of settings, you can create your custom Revit tab, and all the people across your office could use your tools. And it's really easy. The update of those tools is really easy. There need to be a guy who is maintaining all the tools, and you could make some changes in real time. Just all the other guys can reload their PyRevit, and the changes are available to everybody. It doesn't need to uninstall something, reinstall it, or do something something complicated. It's really simple, really nice to use, and I think for non-programmers, Python is the right language, because it's really easy to learn. And PyRevit is the natural thing that you could use after you know Python, because Python with Dynamo is good, but as I said, the execution time of the scripts are not good. So with PyRevit, the speed is good, and it's really easy to maintain all the tools that you create. So yeah, pretty much that's it. And the automation is really, really important, because it can double, triple, or I don't know, the efficiency that you've got with your team.
This podcast is sponsored by Archgyan.com. Head to Archgyan.com for more on the podcast, and also access our courses by heading to Archgyan.com/Patreon. Back to the episode. All right. And do you feel that learning Dynamo in a way helped you learn Python faster, because it already helped you instill that computational thinking, right?
Yeah, it was the first thing that started showing me how I should start thinking a little bit more like a programmer, maybe, because it's a little bit different than the normal way of thinking. Or you should the basic concepts you learn through Dynamo, and the basic workflows, the basic logic, and then Python is the next step, because it gives you a better way of doing the same thing with an actual programming language, because Dynamo, as you I'm sure know, and maybe some of the people listening to us also know, it's a visual programming language. Yeah. So it's not using lines of code. You use some nodes that you connect and build the logic. And that's a very nice way to learn how to program. And then continue with some of the actual programming languages. If you want to create proper add-ins for Revit, you need to go for C#. But Python is really nice and flexible, and it really can solve your problems in a fraction of a time that you will spend if you start learning some complicated other complicated programming languages.
And what do you feel is the best way to learn Python and PyRevit?
Okay. The best way to learn something is to start using it. It's the same with Revit, because just start using it and follow the best practices. There are a lot of tons of information online. And there are really nice articles. There are really nice online courses. So there is information. If you want to learn, there's this online information. There is a lot of free information. So you could start small with, if you start using, for example, Python and you know Dynamo, the first thing maybe could be to recreate some Dynamo script, but with the use only of Python.
Right,
because you already are into the logic, know what needs to be done, and just find the way you needed to do with Python. Yeah, pretty much. This is it. Yeah.
All right. So you said that you created a lot of scripts which helped you in your projects. Maybe is it possible for you to maybe give us an example if there's no NDA or?
Oh, it's totally okay. Yeah. And also, I will use this question to mention that now one of our services is to create custom scripts and Python scripts for our colleagues to help them in their workflows. So
nice.
It starts from just doing this for us and sharing that we are doing this, and there were some people that say, okay, could you do this for us? And I said, I didn't think about it before, but yeah, we can do this for you. And it pretty much, most of those scripts now are for automating repetitive tasks and some boring things that usually you should do and spend a lot of time. Recently, for example, I created the workflow to create first assemblies from curtain walls, then to create a front view of each curtain wall, and then another one to dimension the curtain wall in the assembly. Nice. So this was a workflow developed because of a project of ours in which we decided to go not with regular Revit families windows, not to use windows, but use curtain walls instead, because it was more flexible, and we decided to try how it works, because there were a lot of different combinations and different kind of windows, and if we needed to use Windows families, we should have
create family.
Yeah, and there was a lot of options, and that's why we decided to go with the curtain walls. And after the design, we needed to do a specification. For this specification, we needed a front view of each element. And the best way for us was to go with assemblies, because they're really really nice when you need to create a documentation for certain elements and to isolate them from the whole model, because otherwise we needed to go either with elevation views or sections for each and every window. Yeah. And this will be very time consuming, and also the downside of this is that if there are another elements created, they could have appear in the front views, for example, in the elevation or in the section. And if you do an assembly and create a front view of the assembly, only the assembly members will be there, and nothing else will be there, and this is perfectly okay for the situation. And yeah, pretty much the creation of the assembly was automated, then the creation of the view and the dimensioning. So it was really nice workflow. And
was the creation of the views done through scope boxes?
No. Once the assembly was created, through the Revit API, you could create views assigned to those assemblies. It's the same like you do it in manually in Revit. So with the right click, create new view, and you select what kind of view do you need, front view, section, whatever you need. And yeah, that's how. The tricky part here was that I don't know if you are familiar with that, but if in this case the curtain wall is it's not perpendicular or vertical, so it's rotated somehow. When you create assembly, the origin of the assembly is still vertical horizontally oriented, so it's not following the orientation of the wall itself. So we needed to go and first rotate the origin of the assembly to match the orientation of the wall, and then to create the assembly views, because otherwise it wasn't front view, it was somehow rotated view, so it wasn't right. And that was a little bit tricky to first extract the orientation of each wall and then rotate at the right angle to match the assembly origin. And there are a lot of things like that, but in this is the beauty. So the little thing that you need to do and all these problems, and once you solved it, it's really nice to see how with a couple of clicks you've managed to do work which normally will need a couple of hours to be done. So
and a lot of math as well, right?
Oh yeah, also that.
All right. What is this project? Was it a commercial building?
It was residential. It was a residential building.
Okay, cool. And what is the BIM scenario in Bulgaria? Do all the firms use Revit, or is it only a few of the firms?
It's complicated. Pretty much in Bulgaria, the thing is that there aren't a lot of big firms. There are a couple of big firms, and the majority are firms and studios with a couple of architects and engineers in them. So it is really hard for them to use BIM and Revit, because you know that there are a lot of expenses related to using this kind of technology, because you need to buy the software, the hardware, and it is also to invest time in education and qualification. So it's really hard, but for now, from what can I see, because we are also BIM consultants for another architectural engineering firms here in Bulgaria. There are pretty much not a lot, but more and more in the recent years, firms that start using BIM and Revit. And the thing is that to create a proper BIM, you need all the parties. So not only the engineers and the architects, but also the investors to know what is BIM, the builders, the facility managers, and all. Pretty much everybody in the chain. And for now in Bulgaria, I can say that only architects and engineers are those who are using BIM, and not in the full term BIM, but they're using this kind of technology to produce their project, because they see the benefits of the things that we already discussed: the automation, the increased productivity, and things like that. And that's the main reason, and that they're using BIM for now. So they see benefits only in the field of the project itself. And these are the people who are using BIM right now, and they start talking more and more about BIM. The good thing is that the government start talking about it and start inviting the private sector to give advices and to form task groups who will create a national strategy for implementing BIM. And this is really optimistic. And I want to see what's going to happen, and I'm very optimistic about it. Yeah, we are a couple of years behind some countries here in Europe, like the United Kingdom, maybe Germany, Norway, and another countries that are way ahead right now. Yes, but. We can learn from them and see how they manage to do it, see their mistakes and avoid them, and it's like a like a blank sheet right now. We could draw really nice picture. We can make something really good from it. But the time will show what will happen.
Yeah. All right. And could you tell us maybe more about a typical if when you've received a project, and what is the entire design process till it reaches a stage of BIM model?
So usually we start with just a simple model, which is like a concept. And during this stage, we are in contact with our clients and discussing everything that they may need or may say that it's important for them. The really good thing of BIM is that we can simulate, for example, the real geographical location, and for example the daylighting, or we can build simple volumes of the existing environment, the nearest buildings, trees, and everything that is around our site. And for us, architecture is strongly contextual, so it's really important where you're locating your building and what is around it. So that's how also the slope of the terrain, for example, and all these things could be modeled in a very early stage, and to give all this information to our clients, and they to be able to make informed decisions, which is really important at the early stage, because CAD, for example, cannot show all this information, and it cannot be that informative in the early stage. And when the problem pops up, it is too late to do anything, and it's related to additional costs and to additional problems. So we usually start with a concept model, and we try to have in mind everything that we think is important, and we follow our client requirements. And once we finish this concept model, we start another model based on that. So we usually don't want to continue working on the same model because it drags some problems, errors, and things like that. That usually in the concept phase we are more focused on the design, the concept, not how everything is modeled. So in the concept model we could do some things that are not following the best practices and things like that. And that's why after the end of the concept phase we start another model, which will be the technical phase, let's say that. And in the technical phase we follow our templates, because of course, to be able to deliver high quality projects, we have our templates and our internal BIM protocols and standards, which we follow. And on the technical phase, we could focus on the technical execution of the project. And that's why we separate those two models. And that's we are sure that the end product will be quality enough. The quality of the model will match our standards.
All right. And once you reach construction phase, you still in the end print out 2D drawings, right? You've not reached a stage where the construction project managers use a tablet or PlanGrid or such.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they aren't firms that want us to do also that. So they build on the same old way. So this is something that really needs an improvement here in Bulgaria, because usually the ones that are on site, I don't want to offend them, but they're in the most cases not educated properly. And this is that's a big problem, and they in most cases even don't know how to read drawings. And I cannot even say anything about tablets or augmented reality, virtual reality, or something like that. So this is much something in the future. I hope it will come here someday, and I hope this day will come soon. But right now, this big challenge for us, the construction site, and how to transfer the right way the information from our models, the things that the architects and engineers are put in their models, all the information, all the specification, everything, and how this is transferred to the real building, to the construction site. This is something that we will be talking about in the future years, and see how the digitalization process will take place here in Bulgaria. It will be very challenging, but as I said, I'm optimistic about it.
Awesome. So you're constantly visiting the site?
We try to constantly be there and to make sure that the thing that we as I said, put as information in our models and in our drawings is the thing that is that is mounted and done on the construction site. But still, there are some changes during the construction process, and some it's hard. The process is really complicated right now, and the lack of digitalization in this project is an issue, and it's something that, as I said, on governmental level, on level of the Chamber of the Architects and the engineers in Bulgaria, they start talking about it, and we're trying to find a way to avoid these issues and clean the process as much as possible. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. All right, Peter, I think we had quite a good session. Maybe towards the end, where do you see yourself maybe in 10 years from now?
Oh, this is really a hard question. I don't know. I'm really interested now about the new way of designing and giving architectural answers. What I mean is that I'm really into the new ways of designing, for example, parametric design, generative design, and see how these new ways of creating architecture will lead us, and what the architecture will be like, as you said, in 5 and 10 years. Because you know that in the past, for example, they used to build only with stones, for example, and architecture and the things that the buildings back then was formed by the technology that they had. So they had stone, they had, and the buildings look for us in a certain way. Then, for example, when they start using steel, we got the high-risers. So I'm really curious, and I'm exploring the new ways of doing architecture. And I think that these new technologies like parametric design and generative design will lead us much further, and we will see some very, very interesting architecture projects and results. And it's really interesting, and we will see. And I think this is the future. This is the way that we will shape our cities and our environment, and it will be really, really interesting to see where it will go. And
All right. Awesome. But what are the different materials that you guys use apart from the contemporary concrete and steel?
A lot of wood, in fact. A lot of wood is used here, and the typical Bulgarian architecture is somehow similar to the Japan one, and the use of wood is something really precious, really nice to see that a lot of new projects and buildings are built out of wood. Of course, I'm talking about for max 2-story buildings, so some houses, but still a lot of interesting projects. And I really also like the wood as a building material because it's really warm and cozy and makes you feel good. Yeah.
All right. And you've also started teaching in the college that you studied, right? So could you give us a brief experience working as a part-time lecturer?
Yeah, that's something I was honored to do. It was really, really interesting experience for me because, as I said, the recent years here in Bulgaria, the people start more and more talking about BIM. And when I was a student, as I said, it was some like external course. It wasn't in the regular program, the studying of BIM and some BIM software. And last year was the first year that BIM was went to the regular program, and I was invited to teach Revit in the university. It was really, really nice to see those young people motivated and really into these new technologies, because the university is the place that the research and development is held. All the new things are there, and the young people are there, and they're the engine of this change, and everything that comes is something new. And yeah, it was really, really nice to teach, to see how it's on the other side, because a couple of years I was there on the other side, and now I was there to teach the students, but it was really, really nice experience for me, and I hope that in the future this will continue, because for now it was one-time thing, and we'll see if the results are good, and this will continue to be part of the regular program in the university.
Did you maybe show your students the old Revit models that you used to make in the same college?
Oh, no. No. I just tried to say them that in the beginning it will be hard, because I was there, and it was hard really in the beginning to catch up with Revit and to see how to learn how to do things. And in the beginning I did a lot of things that are wrong, if I can say that were wrong. But because that there are some models that are only for the 3D, only for the volume. They doesn't pay attention how they model things. They're just there. And the thing is with BIM is that the information is really the key. So you need to structure the information very well, and to do the things the right way, to model the wall with the wall tool, not with something else. And pretty much you need to follow some basic guideline to create good models. And I tried to lay down the grounds of how to make the good model. I know that in only one semester they cannot become Revit masters, but just to grab the idea how to build their models. I really like to say that creating a Revit model is like replicating the construction of a building. So it's pretty much the same thing, and you just do it in a digital environment. And that's the way that they need to start thinking, because doing things in CAD environment is completely different of doing the things in BIM. So in the CAD environment, you're pretty much doing the same thing that you do on paper. You're working with lines, circles, and things like that. And in a BIM environment, you're working with elements. It's object oriented. So you need to change the way you think about the creation of the model. Not you don't you don't have to think about the drawing itself, how to create the drawings, how to produce the drawings. You should think about how to create the model, and the drawings will come naturally from the model if the model is done right. So yeah, pretty much you need to follow this way of thinking.
All right. So we started with drafting, and then we moved on to CAD, then we moved on to Revit, BIM. So where do you see us moving on to next?
As I said, I think maybe these new technologies like VR, virtual reality, to create the models in a virtual reality. So you don't use your, for example, keyboard and mouse. You need some, you maybe could use some controllers and VR set and create everything in the digital environment. And also, yeah, and there are some researchers on this topic. There are some examples. I think NVIDIA has something developed on this theme, on this topic, and you could also put your client ahead of your set and walk him through your building and change colors, move furniture in real time, and to see how your project is changing, and to see the result in real time, and to make even more better and better informed decisions in this digital environment. And also, as I said, generative design is something that is really interesting to me, the generative algorithms, and see how the computer could generate thousands or tens of thousands of different options based on some input parameters and definitions that you create, and see how these new technologies will help us do our job in the future. I don't know. I'm really curious to find out what will the future will be like.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. Definitely it is. Yeah.
All right. I generally ask this to all my guests in the end. What advice would you give to young architects just starting, or maybe even architecture students who enrolled into architecture?
Maybe to the most important thing is to find their passion, because, as I said, architecture is really wide field. So you could do a lot of things. You could do visualizations, you could do BIM, you could do, I don't know, tons of things. And to find the thing that they're really passionate about, because this is the key to be very good at it. So you should not do something only because it's a trend or something. So find your thing and push harder and harder to become a master at it. So maybe this is the most important thing, to find what you love to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Before I let you go, we'll just quickly jump into the quickfire round, and we'll jump into the informal session of the podcast.
Okay.
All right. So which book has inspired you the most as an architect?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll confess that I didn't read. I don't read a lot about architecture. Pretty much, I like to read more about people. And
so, which book would be your favorite in general?
Oh, I don't know. The last book maybe that I see here in front of me is Yes is More by Big. And it's really nice to see the way of thinking of this company and the way they present their projects. It's really, really nice and inspiring. Yeah, maybe I could say that, definitely.
What would you have chosen had you not taken up architecture?
Oh, I don't really. Maybe I love a lot to create things and to do something with my hand, because I don't know, something like a handyman, maybe craftsman, I don't know, something something like that, I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Which city would you consider your favorite?
For now, I think on the top of my list is Porto in Portugal. It's really, really nice city with really nice atmosphere. I don't like the crowded, a very overcrowded cities like Barcelona, for example. And Porto is really, really nice, and maybe it's Porto for now.
All right. Are you a football fan by any chance?
No, I'm not.
All right.
No.
But you do travel a lot, right?
Yeah, the recent years I traveled a lot here in Europe, around Europe. And also I had the chance to go to the United States, which was very interesting for me. Nice. Because when we travel here in the Europe, pretty much everything is the same. So it's not exactly the same, but the scale and the people are pretty much the same. And the United States, everything is very different. You can say I don't know, you could start from the streets, for example, cars, everything is completely different. The way of thinking of the people, everything is really, really different. And so it's a really nice experience to be there for a while, to see how they think, how they live, how they're working. And yeah, it was interesting experience.
All right. And my last question to you is, what does a daily routine in your life look like from morning to evening?
There are different days, but usually I like to start my day with a workout. So I go to the gym for an hour. It's really nice in the morning to wake up to make yourself ready for the day. And then I go to the office, and pretty much I spend most of the day there. Sometimes there are different meetings that I need to go somewhere in the city, but pretty much it's not something special. The days are pretty much the same. But yeah, maybe the most important for me is to try to move as much as possible. So at lunch I go for a small walk and something, because I don't like to be on the same place for a long time, and it's really important to be active. And that's why usually in the weekends I went to the mountain for hiking or something like that, because with our profession we are pretty much anchored to our chairs in the office, so it's not really nice.
Nice. All right, thanks, Petar. I think that was a great session and we learned a lot. What's the best way our listeners could get in touch with you?
My LinkedIn profile. Yeah, my LinkedIn profile is the best way. I can leave also my email, so anyone interested in what I'm doing or my company could get in touch.
You've been listening to the Archgyan podcast. We're still building the community. Please share this knowledge with someone you know who could benefit. Just send them to archgyan.com, where you'll find our free newsletter, and for more podcast episodes, search for the show on any major podcasting platform. Don't forget to subscribe where you're listening right now. And if you liked it, leave a rating or review.